Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
His expression tryst with destiny is significant because India's independence is clothed with many secrets that give birth to several questions, namely, have we indeed achieved freedom, or have we been gifted with the freedom? Technically, we have been gifted freedom. Whether Nehru would have become the first Prime Minister if on that day Gandhi's politics hadn't dissuaded Vallabhbhai to withdraw himself as a prime ministerial candidate, and why Lord Mountbatten remained the Governor General of a technically free India, and whether 562 princely states joined India mainly due to coercion or persuasion. The interpretation of these issues is a matter of debate, but these are hard facts. The thrust of partition was such that when the British proposed to form the interim government of India and Pakistan, Direct Action Day was announced by Jana, which goes by the mournful title of Great Calcutta Killings, which made the partition inevitable. Young Free India had to use the stroke of war and pain when she was requested by King of Kashmir, who at that time did not decide which country to join, to save Kashmir from Pakistani armed infiltrators who entered the valley for occupying it. India intervened on the condition of Kashmir joining India, but could remove infiltrators only to today's POK, thereby architecting the perpetual frictional point that we see today between two Kashmirs in one Kashmir. When the partition horror was continuing to be fueled by the arrival and departure of our people, the Atma of the Mahatma unnaturally left this country. With the horror of partition in mind and the departure of that Atma, we embraced Purna Swaraj on January 26, 1950, with India announcing that we, the people of India, are the destiny makers of ours, but not any foreign powers. When we were becoming hungry, owing to the increase in birth rate, we caused the revolution of green to arrest the hunger. We became self-reliant, but to date, every one of us does not get sufficient food. When we were 12 years old, our trust in friendship was broken by China, thereby tearing us into pieces, which pieces did not even leave our first Prime Minister. When we were endeavoring to join those separated pieces, our neighbor Pakistan attempted to destroy us, but we prevailed. However, the end of war suspiciously snatched our Bahadur from us. When our farmers and small businessmen, sadly only men, were gasping for a breath of financial assistance, we took over the banks for advancing assistance. We committed mistakes. The Supreme Court intervened, however, granted us the license of taking over the banks with adequate compensation. When we needed protein, we caused a revolution of white. When our people from present-day Bangladesh needed us, we stood by them. When our trees were attempted to be cut off, our women prevented the cutting by taking inspiration from the historical deeds of Amrita Devi, who sacrificed her life while protecting the trees. When we smelled that our peace can be disturbed by our neighbors, we conducted our first nuclear test. When Mrs. Gandhi interpreted power to mean only her power, she announced her dictatorship. Thereafter, we announced her departure, although for a short time. When we wanted to beat the gravitational pull of the world, we launched Aryabhatta. When we were anonymous for the cricketing world, we became Jadugars by winning the World Cup in 1983. When we became tired of roaming on the earth, we, Rakesh Sharma, went to the space.
ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है आपको?
जी मैं बगैर किसी झिझक के कह सकता हूँ कि सारे जहां से अच्छा.
When Mrs. Gandhi acted unintentionally, although whimsically in the Golden Temple, we lost her. When we had to inject secularism into the religion for the human rights, the Supreme Court declared the right of a Muslim divorced woman to claim maintenance from her husband. When we found alleged corruption in the defense in the Bofors deal, we threw away the facilitators of the corruption. When we felt the need to continue with the upliftment of our historically persecuted people, we, without any second thought, did so through Mandal Commission, although by uplifting castes but not backward classes to save a few from political diarrhea. When our people of Sri Lanka needed us, we intervened at the cost of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. When a few got dissatisfied with the speed of the court dealing with Babri Masjid, religious hatred took over from the law to demolish the masjid, and it left us ashamed. When we needed to strengthen our nuclear potential, we fooled even the spy satellites of the CIA by conducting our second nuclear test. When we realized the words of Dr. Ambedkar, we embraced our first Dalit President K.R. Narayanan. When we discovered that our children should eat first and then study, we implemented all the poorly a midday meal scheme, but never stopped our endeavor of improving it. When we realized that ideals of a dignified life should now be materialized for all, we vowed that if we fail to employ our rural unskilled people within 15 days of their demand to get employment, we will pay them unemployment allowance. And for transparency of such process, we gave to ourselves the right to information by RTI Act. When we felt that water is not the monopoly of the earth, we discovered water on the moon. And when we found that Mars could be the next earth, we reached there with a lesser budget than gravity.
आज मॉम का मंगल से मिलन हो गया.
When we found that Kargil is usurped by infiltrators, we evicted them. We even provided accommodation at a lower cost to the families of war heroes. However, politics injected its corruption therein. When the house of our will was attacked, we did not deny justice to the infiltrators who did so. When we fooled ourselves by considering ourselves as us and them, Gujarat witnessed deaths and destruction. When we welcomed our first women president, we gave ourselves the opportunity of witnessing a new dawn. However, a twilight ushered in the form of the 2G scam and the Mumbai attack, but the end witnessed India winning her first Olympic gold medal. When we needed to respond to the corruption, the hunger of Hazare converted the dream of Lokpal and Lokayuta into reality. When we needed reforms in criminal law, sadly, one of our women had to sacrifice her life in the most venomous way to convince us that we needed reforms in criminal law. When our conscience felt that the time has come to take on the practice of pronouncing one word 3 times for ending a relationship, the Supreme Court intervened and slashed down that practice. When the expression of love was the privilege of opposite sexes, the courts at last stood at the top, declaring that sex is for all at the cost of remaining silent on marriage. When we decided that one of our states shall completely become our state, the difference between our Kashmir and our other states was removed. However, the difference in mentality persists. When we needed to decide where Ram was born, for deciding the winner of the land, witness of shame and cry, the Supreme Court assumed the role of the fact finder. When our government in good faith wanted our farmers to spell and pronounce capitalism, they did so without consulting with them, which amounted to a wastage of our money and efforts.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है.
When we had to confront an invisible enemy, our government became invisible on the plight of the many, and its continuous denials of the stories which ended on rails and hospital beds, broke the myth of our greatness. When we were running the world's largest free vaccination program, the government was unable to stop Ganga to give shelter to lifeless bodies. When our economy advised us to make service in defense uncertain, our potential soldiers protested. Although the fire of uncertainty remained with some more money in the offering. When we again recall the words of Dr. Ambedkar, India welcomed its first tribal president.
और मैं भारत की जनता की सेवा
और मैं भारत की जनता की सेवा
और कल्याण में निरत रहूंगी
और कल्याण में निरत रहूंगी.
The events narrated so far had one thing in common. When we needed to act, we acted. Sometimes wrongly, sometimes rightly, sometimes very late. We eat, drink, breathe, and work with politics. And politics has always made a tryst with destiny, wherein the destiny sometimes has been black, sometimes white, but a very few times it has been grey. However, now we see it in the lighter and darker shades of grey, depending upon the ratio of white and black in it. We have been reminded of that tutored story that the independence has come at the cost of non-violence. If it is so, then why did we have the naval revolt of 1946? Why did we have Bhagat, Subhash and Khudiram? Bharat has come a long way since 1947. From the Hindu code bills to the abolition of triple talaq, we have seen protests, strikes, war, hunger, deaths due to mismanagement, corruption under the umbrella of politics, and many more things. But this was only one side of the coin. The other side has been a Bharat which is inquisitive like a detective, tenacious like a farmer, precise like a surgeon, and now courageous as ever. We made friends, but the very next day, they became our enemies. We have seen bloodshed before independence, after independence, and still today. We are different from one another, but we are us. Not us and they. Let's not practice unity in diversity. Instead, unite for weaponizing this diversity so that we become a dish of items, not a recipe for the world.